Oh, I'm dumb. He hit the live button, and all of a sudden, I'm retarded. Welcome to Bitcoin Veterans, everybody. Welcome to the Bitcoin Veterans pre-show, by the way.
Yeah.
You see why E equals MC squared doesn't make any sense. Oh, live button. Oh,
Torup's already here. He's been here for like 40 minutes. He should have started the what does it say? 6:52 p.m. Man, he's been here for. He still thinks that the whole thing starts at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Dude, that's fucking commitment.
It is commitment, man.
Because he hangs out and he's like, "They'll start it soon." I'll just wait.
They're in there talking about string theory versus unified field theory. That nobody's ever had that conversation about us. Guaranteed.
Well, and then the best part is like the best part is that we're all talking about it before it goes live, and then once we go live and people can see the conversation, we're not talking about it. So like we're talking about how we talked about it. Everybody's like, they're a bunch of crayon munchers and grunts from the army. Like they don't actually talk about that crap.
It's perfect. Keep
perfect
that
cover.
Up.
You guys have to back us up. Like we're retards. Like you have to keep like pushing that out there.
Did you guys see the deep fake, the AI thing where Trump is talking about how we're bringing back how it's cool to call your friends retarded and fags?
Yeah, that was awesome.
I don't think I did, but I can imagine it.
I'll have to bring it up. It's the pre-show. This is where we get to have fun and do all this kind of fun stuff.
What were we? We were talking about how we're on the knife's edge. That's what we were talking about.
Yep.
Dude, it really is wild though. Like being in a position where you're confident that you are where the rest of the country and the rest of the world is going over the next years to decades.
Yeah.
It maybe financially, but also like cognitively and understandingly. And we still think that we're behind because we technically are behind like the few autists with Asperger's that are like a couple years ahead of everybody else that are building it all.
Can you imagine being that far on the edge, though, man? That's where I was going to go.
No, you got to be weird as shit to be out there.
Yeah, let me play this clip. You'll have a good laugh, and I'm going to ask you guys a question. Don't forget.
Today, I am signing an executive order making it legal to call your friends fags and retards if they are doing something faggy or retarded. Fags and retards, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to start calling our friends this again. And we will. We're going to call them fags and retards again. Today.
And we just got kicked off of YouTube.
Oh, fuck YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We're going to get our whole 20 views on YouTube anyway. We're doing it all for Twitter.
That's right. Yeah, if you're on Twitter, do us a solid and go share this thing out there and let everybody know that we are going to have a good time tonight. I saw that. I was actually I don't know what I was doing. I had one of my children around me. You guys know Henry, the left-handed cosmonaut, and that starts playing or whatever. He's on the ground, just knee slapping as hard as he can, man. I am so happy that this generation gets to experience just some sort of normalcy like we did, back in the day, and like nobody takes it as seriously as it should. Like it's just like Jesus,
like not policing yourself to say like, dude, you're being retarded. Come on, quit.
Yeah,
make the 80s great again.
That's right.
Oh, dude, I hope Shane, I hope your boys are getting some experience of like the late 2000s to the early 2010s like gaming community. Like that was peak Call of Duty and Halo time. Like when everybody's just talking shit and just screaming at each other.
What's funny is my kids have like real buddies, right? Like they have guys that like they hang out with on, like we've
like we do.
Yeah, like we've talked to these kids. We know who they are. They know who we are. We know their parents. They know us. And as much as I want them to not be on video games most of the time, right? It's like there's a whole world out there for you. It's cool that these guys get to have people that they can talk to across the globe, basically, and have a different experience than we had even. But yeah, it's pretty good. I was going to ask you guys. We were talking about kind of being on the razor's edge of where things seem to be headed. And I was actually going to ask you guys this during the show tonight, but I think it's, because it just kind of came up. I was like, it's probably a good time. what would you kind of consider domestically and internationally a success for this administration? Like there's a lot that, I don't want your perfect world. I want, more of the answer of like realistically at this point, what do you think success looks like out of the Trump administration over the next 4 years? What would you be? What would you just be so
I'm locked and
damn
loaded
happy
if you
about?
want me to take this one.
I mean, happy.
Oh, happy, or just
Yeah.
like realistically,
Like Trump is the best damn president we've ever had. Fuck everybody else.
All right, well, man, how do I word this without sounding like I'm sucking his dick?
You're not. So
I
just
think
let it
Trump
roll.
is already the best president we've ever had, at least like in my lifetime. And it's a very low bar. Like, that's why I say I don't want it to sound as good as it's going to sound. It's a very low bar, and it's like, dude, first pardoning Ross on his first full day in office, following up on a campaign promise that from a group of people that probably like gave him the win. He could have said, "Oh, fuck you, I'm already in power. What are you going to do? And I'm never running again." Yeah. He could have just done that, and it'd been like, "Oh, you're like every other president." So he actually did something at a time when he really didn't have to. So for that reason, I think he's beat the very low bar of every other president. In my dream scenario, I mean, he starts slashing like the Department of Education and actually gets Congress on board as they see this overwhelming support of like, oh, this is actually a winner. And we've got this new wave of kind of MAGA Republicans and a lot of people defecting from the Democratic Party. I think you see a shift in people saying like, this is how we continue to get elected. Like, to some degree, I don't want to sound like I'm stroking democracy's cock either, but I'm just all over the place. But like, to some degree, it would be proof of like the incentives for politicians to get into power are lined up with the people. Once you start getting freedom of speech back and being able to push back against their propaganda, it's kind of crazy how quickly the things can shift. And I feel like we're there. So getting a lot of those programs shut down would be amazing. Like a massive reduction in spending and the number of government agencies. Now, realistically, I think if all he does is lower spending, I mean, I'm saying even if it's by $1, that will be more. Even if it was maintained, that would be better than any other president that has ever done. I mean, specifically in my lifetime and going way back further than that. That alone would be like a victory. You didn't grow the size of government. That would be huge. Like, that's a monumental shift from like, Trump the first time couldn't have gone back to like Obama era spending, let alone Bush era spending. And it's both parties just growing it. So I think realistically, like, just showing that that's like a winning strategy is to actually shrink the size of government now that the people's voices can be heard a little bit better. That'd be huge. That's just domestically. I can get into the foreign policy stuff if you want to.
Yeah, I want to hear it, man. I mean, I think it's important in terms of, looking back a lot of times, you look back and you go, hey man, we did an episode 4 years ago on like what we thought would be successful. Maybe go through it and then, do a real, kind of lineup and juxtapose those two is like what really happened and what would we be excited if it happened?
Yeah. I mean, foreign policy wise, I think for the most part, Trump already showed in his first term that he really did want to reduce the wars. I think between the Russiagate stuff and the deep state in general being against him, specifically like DOD, CIA, pushing back and playing fuck games with the number of troops that were in Syria, for instance. And I don't know, just kind of prolonging the current wars, but at least he didn't start any new ones. And I don't think we pull out of Afghanistan if Trump hadn't have gotten that deal. Like, everyone wants to say Biden like blew the withdrawal. Okay. And to some credit, like he actually went through with it and they did it, but that was all lined up under Trump's first term. So
I thought that was actually kind of masterful.
yeah, he didn't have to take the heat.
Yeah, and I think that's why no president before then withdrew troops from Afghanistan. And I don't want to interrupt you, but like I think that's a really salient point. Like if they were trying to limit the damage that would be done from that, why not set a date for another administration? It just makes more sense than you can possibly imagine.
Losing the election in 2020 was the best thing that could have happened for Trump himself. And,
I agree.
I mean, depending on what policies get enacted and what you hope get enacted, might be better for America too that he lost in 2020 when all is said and done. But as far as like the foreign policy stuff, I think obviously like drastically reducing the American empire, getting out of NATO, like those would be huge monumental wins. What would be better is, again, like not starting what's more realistic is don't start any new wars, reduce some, and I don't know, show that you can break away from loving Israel, because it's just such a like that's the one thing that I'll bash Trump over the head with, metaphorically speaking, is like his plans for Gaza and supporting Israel. Like everything else you're doing is great, cutting aid for all these countries, but like, we got to make sure we.
You mean the Buc-ee's Strip, right? Not the Gaza Strip. It's Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's Strip. I don't think it's big enough for a Buc-ee's.
It's probably not.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I mean, I meant to interrupt you. I wanted to get that in there.
Oh yeah, no, well worth it.
If anybody out there in the crowd is wondering what we're talking about, I think there was a map that we shared in one of our chats where it had like Buc-ee's and Taco Bell and different maps, like all these American chain bullshit, places all over,
We're gonna occupy it. It's gonna be great.
Palestinians' land.
You mean Buc-ee's? Buc-ee's is gonna occupy it. It's gonna be great.
I mean, if they sent in Buc-ee's employees, like that place would probably be running great with very clean toilets.
That place is amazing. As absolutely ridiculous as it is, I mean, it's a pretty amazing place to just.
I mean, they have so many employees. Like, I'm pretty sure they must have been receiving USAID payments.
Yeah, as much as I don't enjoy saying that I love a gas station, like Buc-ee's is killing it.
Buc-ee's isn't a gas station.
It's
a lifestyle, bro.
I had a professor in college that was from I can't remember if he was from Minnesota or from Canada. Like he was one of them, and he gave us Iowans so much shit. He's like, "Do you guys understand how?" I can't remember if he was from Minnesota.
That
backwards
every day.
You guys understand how backwards you guys are down here in Iowa? Like you're getting food from a gas station. Like, talk about Casey's Pizza, because if you've ever been to Iowa, you have to get Casey's Pizza and try it. It's great stuff, but like he just shit on us like every day in class. He's like, "Yeah, well, you guys get your pizza from a gas station, so your opinions really don't matter." So like,
that sounds terrible.
I mean, yeah.
I was like,
yeah,
I'll from your Substack right now.
But like, and then you see everybody talking about Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's has great brisket, like tacos and burritos. Like you can't shit on them. If you're gonna shit on them, it's because you haven't had them before.
Well, I mean, I don't know what kind of gas stations we're talking about in Iowa, but Buc-ee's is like a Walmart with a gas station.
That's what I say to everybody there.
Yep.
Only it's far cleaner. The bathrooms are incredible. I mean, you literally survive like an F5 tornado in those bathrooms, and they're clean as hell. You have
they're
your own
clean as hell with like 50,000 people going and using them every day.
Yeah, they got
Buc-ee's.
showers.
If you're looking for some sponsorship, like
Buc-ee's. If you want us to help get the word out about Buc-ee's,
yeah.
If you want us to tell our gay retarded faggot friends,
faggy retarded friends,
we'll let them all know.
Fun. Mike, what about you? What do you think success is in this administration, man? What are you guys gonna be tickled to death with?
I really want to see, like, I'll start with the foreign first. I want to see. I'll agree with a lot of like what Jordan was saying. I particularly want to see I want to see all of our activity in Syria kind of like get nixed. And I want to see that, and then I would like to see our military activity on the continent of Africa also like aggressively reduce. There's a lot of stuff going on that like the general public just doesn't know about there, and so like what people don't know about, they can't be enraged about, which is the mainstream media and Mockingbird media and the CIA hard at work. But I would also like the big one. I think probably the biggest one for me is I want to see more intimate trade with Central and South America. I want to see that. I want to see American manufacturing. Like, we don't have to bring all the US.
Boy, I tell you what, man, and the internet did not like Mike talking about opening up trade with Central and South America. Trump was like, "Fuck you, we're going to tax the shit out of those guys.
Get this guy out of here.
Cut him off right now. That guy needs to go, Elon. The Mike Hobart, dude. Just get rid of that guy's account. They're gone. He's gone. Absolutely toast. He'll be back in a second. There he is. Hey,
what happened?
We lost you. There's a conspiracy theory online now that you started talking about open trade with Central and South America, and Trump told Elon, just no, get Mike Hobart.
I mean, it could be, but I also don't. I think the CIA is more concerned about that than Elon, because I think that I want to see a lot of like I was saying, I want to see a lot of manufacturing and trade deals shift over to Central and South America. They're our neighbors, so we should be like. The funny thing is that Tucker actually made a comment on the recent Mike Benz discussion that is aligned with this. Is like a lot of morons think that having weak neighbors is strategically sound, which is completely back-asswards. Like, you want your neighbors to be strong with you so you can work as a team and as a community towards aligned efforts. You don't want weak neighbors because A, they're going to have a drug problem, more than likely. Sounds familiar. B, they're going to be very manipulative and suggestible to people that are not aligned with your objectives and that want to see you fail. Which we are seeing a lot of that happening with China and Russia influence, especially down in Central and South America. And not only that, but they've got a lot of resources that we could use. They've got a lot of resources that we could use to help build up and develop their countries too. So they're not living in squalor. Like the fact, and they've also got a lot of oil, like, believe it or not. And we have a lot of oil that we could be using, but we're not, because Californians think that the planet's going to, spontaneously combust because they're buying into the propaganda that's been recycled for 70 years. 10 more years, we're all going to burn to death or drown, and it's never happened.
Can you imagine living that way? Golly,
dude, imagine living in a mindset and a lifestyle where you're constantly perpetually terrified that you're going to die of some force that sounds scientific, but then you dig into the science and none of it makes sense. But you still believe it because, like, you have to, right? Because,
well, I mean, your favorite celebrity, Jennifer Aniston or fucking Barack Obama or whoever else. Not they're together or any. I don't know. Anyway, the fact that those people want you terrified that you're going to boil to death or freeze to death or have some sort of cataclysm because of a natural disaster type of thing is like, man. Yeah, that has got to be a terrible way to live. To Mike's point too, is can you imagine like all the money and manipulation and efforts that the machine has put into Central and South America in terms of like terrorizing it? Can you imagine if we actually did some good down there with all that money? Like, golly, that's I think that's probably my hope in all of this is like let's figure out the incentive structure, and if we figure out the incentive structure in terms of Bitcoin, I think that goes a long, long way towards moving in a better direction for all of humanity and our legacy in perpetuity. Because once you fix incentive structure, I think that fixes a lot of other things. That's got to be not that I want the U.S. government in Bitcoin, but I think the inevitability is that the sooner, especially the United States, adopts Bitcoin, the better we are faster. I believe that wholeheartedly.
I mean, It's almost like free trade is like the way to go. And if we were to open up free trade with this like giant resource rich hemisphere, that's all like part of us, and we start doing it on a Bitcoin standard, it's like, oh, all of a sudden America's still on top. Like, again, like I don't really want the government to be in control of it, but I mean, maybe they won't be in control of it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then the people in the countries trading with each other are on a Bitcoin standard. Like, man, what does that look like to the rest of the world? They're like, man, they're all right next to each other, just out there crushing it. We better get on board.
Yeah. What we're going to have to do is create a better highway between here and South America. I mean, that's really what it would boil down to is you start opening up, lines of commerce and things like that, where, you're doing improvements for infrastructure that are going to last more than, 5 years or some shit like that. And, you look at what Bukele's been able to do down in El Salvador, right? Like I think he had his first year without any murders, like in El Salvador. Like it was like Flint, Michigan, for God's sakes, right? It's like the murder capital of the world. And you fix incentive structure, you lock up the baddies, these people who are going to abuse other people, and at that point you get into this different type of world, man. People feel a little bit safer. They're ready to go out and make trade happen because they do feel a little bit safer. They've got a sound money. They can, some of those people are charging less now for the products. I'm sure you've seen like kind of the street hawkers and vendors out there, and what they've talked about with those guys in terms of, now not only are you getting, cheese with your pupusa, but now you're also getting a side of sour cream, and the price is less because they've been on a Bitcoin standard and they've got more capital and money than they had. And you start to spread that across Central and South America. You start to do those roadway projects, rail projects, you name it. You start really opening things up and going in a positive incentive structure route. And the Americas, man, that is going to be really fascinating to watch grow over time, because you root out the culture that's degenerate. You really just kind of put it in the hands of people who are the doers and the meritocracy, and that kind of shit is contagious, man. Like you start to see other people like old Pepe over there. He used to be a loser, but if Pepe is watching Juan, and Juan is crushing it, and he knows where Juan came from, like same neighborhood, they grew up together, running through, puddles of, feces and everything else that, were in their neighborhood. Like that's just a kid from my block. You start to see that guy go out and actually make something himself. That guy goes, dude, if Juan can do it, I can fucking do it, man. And
that retarded faggot can do it.
That's right. Oh man, yeah.
What the fuck is pupusa?
You gotta try it, man.
You gotta. I thought you did some work down in Central and South America, for God's sakes.
No, I wasn't.
Other direction.
Yeah.
No, let me tell you
Not
something.
the nice
a little bit closer to Russia.
They sell them on the side of the road in the in the county I'm in. So I will tell you right now, and they're delicious, by the way.
They are delicious. I can't. It's hard for me to describe it, but they taste great.
Kind of like an empanada. That's the thing is, I think most of the foods from south of the border contain the same ingredients. So they're just wrapped a different way and different substances and prepared.
Just say something in Spanish, and I'll bring you a plate.
No, should I try and finish my answer, or should we start taking bets on how many more times the deep state's going to silence me?
I don't even remember. You cut out for so long, man. We just kept going with the pre-show. But yeah, by all means, go ahead.
Good. But because I was talking domestically, Central and South America, blah blah blah. But domestically, I really want to see. I want to see the U.S. start like mining our own like rare earths, particularly up in Alaska. Like I've been doing a lot of research on the Pebble project. There we have access to a metric ass load of copper and gold up in Alaska, and the indigenous like native tribes, they want it developed. I think there's almost half a dozen of lawsuits against the EPA right now, trying to sue them because they've been blocking the development of the Pebble project up there. because they know how much wealth it would bring to the area. I want to see that happen. I want to see U.S. energy. I want to see nuclear really get like the gates kind of blown open.
Yeah.
There's so much ridiculous red tape because of what happened with Chernobyl that people's like I've had conversations on Spaces with some of the guys talking about Bitcoin mining. People still think that nuclear reactors like are highly likely to not only melt down, but then they can go off like a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, Chernobyl, and it's ridiculous.
Nuclear reactors don't go off like a nuclear bomb, so you're fine there. B, all the modern generation nuclear reactor designs are so well designed that everything is so siloed and compartmentalized that if there was a meltdown, which the safety mechanisms are so ridiculous and automated that you're likely not going to have one as long as you don't do something stupid like what was it, Fukushima, where they put the boilers on the seawall. Like, how freaking retarded do you have to be to put boilers on the seawall in the off chance that a tsunami hits and it blows up the boilers and then the nuclear reactor is in jeopardy? Like, come on, guys. Like, let's stop being complacent.
They're really good with internal combustion engines, not so much the nuclear stuff.
Yeah. But
they're just trying to make Godzilla.
But that's actually another topic that I that would be dope to see, but I don't know if Trump will be able to do it, is taking away a lot of the red tape around internal combustion engines and reducing the cost of vehicles.
Well, I think he's already come after the executive orders whereby whatever it is, some arbitrary date that we have to be, 90% battery operated, DC cars, right? Like I think that's already gone. And I think that's I hope that gets better, right? Like, I'm in that camp where I'm like, hey, that $14,000 Toyota truck that, people can buy overseas, like they'll never sell it here in the United States until that kind of stuff goes away. And, in this real world where you want everybody moving and getting after it as much as possible, that $14,000 truck is it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. And like, if you guys notice, those three main domestic topics all reduce cost of living.
Yeah.
And make it so that the dollar can go farther or the Bitcoin can go farther in the future. Like that's the kind of long-term thinking that we need to be concerned with. Cause I'll say for the domestic stuff, I'll say any one of those three, but if two of the three get accomplished, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
I don't expect all three. And like the other thing too that I wanted to add is like anything concerned with security with the southern border and stuff. That's a can of worms that you're not putting that toothpaste back in the tube, right? Because now that there's so many of those people here, especially talking about the documented known terrorists that have crossed that southern border, which number in the minimum of 1,000 that like we know have crossed the border and in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Their timeline's infinite. They could their plans could be executed tomorrow. They could be executed in like towards the end of Trump's presidency. They could be executed in a decade. Like there's no if you're gonna weed them out, it's gonna take a long time.
Yeah. I was going to ask you real quick before we launch this thing for real. You're an energy guy. What would you rather see? Would you rather see like SMR development, or would you rather see this plasma type engine come forth?
I think that kind of stuff. The only way that the plasma stuff comes forward faster than SMRs is if somebody actually is listening to like the Ashton Forbeses and the Dr. Stephen Greers and open sources that capability for the average individual with enough funding, the access to resources to do it on their own. I think that the SMRs are likely to happen because if you leave it just to big corporate, they're going to stifle and restrict the development of plasma energy generation so that they can throttle it and make money and do the JP Morgan strategy. Versus the SMRs, they're going to get to the point of where they can make them. They'll be able to get to the point where they can put them into vehicles and engines and aircraft and ships. I mean, they're already doing them with ships, but they're doing them on the like large naval like carrier and submarine level. But they're going to do it in a way to where it like minimally impacts the oil masters as much as possible, versus if you do it open source style, BitTorrent, Napster style, where the average individual can do it, like then you force their hand, and you force them having to do things actually intelligently and rationally, quickly and cheaply, because they can't have average Joe going out there making a plasma engine that works and then 3D printing it at home for a fraction of the cost and doing it for himself and then his family and then his neighbors and then building up a giant industry rapidly. Because today you can make a business, spin it up, get access to logistics and trade and funding and all this, everything, like in a matter of hours, versus when the big oil guys had to set things up, it took years, right? So they can't have that.
Yeah, they definitely don't. They're not going to stand by idly and just watch it happen. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, like, and like the big thing is I really, really, really hope, and I think that they are the next generation of engineers that are like going through college and university right now, or getting out right now, or maybe in their first innings of their career. You guys put your name on it, but put that shit open source, get that out there. And you may not think that wealth and riches will divert in your direction, but I can promise you they absolutely will. Yeah. And you're gonna get more renown and more fame for open sourcing that and making it clear. It's like, hey, I put this out here. You guys have it. Go, be free. Free fishies, go do your own thing. Because people are going to appreciate it and they're going to give credit where credit's due. Because like we've seen in the Bitcoin community, that proof of work, like the people that actually matter, that do good things, they give credit to the ones that came before them. Yep. And people appreciate it. And it gets rebuffed. It's just, it takes longer because it's a grassroots practice and people need to see it happen before they actually believe it works. So I'm optimistic.
Hell yeah. Wow.
Dude,
wow.
That is a great way to start the show, man. Optimistic. All right, fellas, Bitcoin veterans, here we go. And we got an optimistic show for you tonight. Mike Hobart is here. We got Jordan. I didn't know that I was going to say that tonight, honestly, and I'm actually really happy about it. There's some great stuff going on in the world. This is Bitcoin Veterans. We are here to put you on the mission. That mission is we are a group of military veterans and devout Bitcoin advocates, drawing from our shared experiences, defending the values that our nation was founded upon. We champion decentralized, trustless systems that empower individuals and communities, eliminate centralized authority, and advance the cause of free and open societies. By harnessing the transformative power of Bitcoin, we strive to promote a world where every individual has the undeniable right to control their own destiny, assets, and privacy. We stand against tyranny in all forms, using our combined expertise and passion to ensure that the promise of liberty thrives. Together, we will continue our oath to safeguard the ideas that define us. We are veterans, we are Bitcoiners, and we are for freedom, man. I tell you what a great group of guys to be associated with. If you're out there now, we do this every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. If you're on Twitter, share it for us. Let everybody know that we're on. We are going to get after it a little bit tonight. We've got a great show for you. We're going to be talking about Elon and what Doge is doing with Usaid or Usaid or whatever the hell you want to say. I really don't care. It's going to be a good one. We've been talking about energy and everything else already tonight. We opened up the show behind the scenes talking about physics. And everybody's like, sure you did, dorks.
Good joke, guys.
We didn't say we were right.
You know, we just talk about it. I watched, you know, a Big Bang show once upon a time.
I mean, I think we're right. We're definitely right.
That's right, man. You guys wore out from trying to keep up with this news cycle yet?
No,
I just haven't been keeping up with it.
Is that right?
I mean, look, we have our chats and stuff. I feel like I feel like we've gotten to the point where the useful information percolates itself and finds its way to me. I don't have to really go find the big important stuff.
I've noticed I mean, I'm kind of biting my own tongue before it even came out of my mouth, but I think that there's an interesting thing of where when you see the high level, the high altitude problems, like the big problems, and you think rationally about what the problems are and the most likely kind of like effective strategy to solve them. I think the interesting thing is that I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed like a lot of kind of synchronicities of like and those if you don't know what a synchronicity is, what's up, Nick? If you don't know what a synchronicity is it's like it's almost kind of like deja vu, or where you're working, like you might be working on something, like say you're reading a book or a topic, and then you see like 3 or 4 things that are related or directly related to that topic in short succession afterwards. There's a lot of theories in the more frou-frou kind of like conversation groups thinking that like that means that you're on the right path because you're following a path of least resistance when things are just kind of like happen to be working out in your favor, or just like streamlining certain ways of thought. I've noticed a lot of that in the last couple of years. And I think a lot of it is because of the stuff that you learn, because like the gateway drug that is Bitcoin, like we were talking in the pre-show. Because you have to learn a lot in order to understand Bitcoin, because there's no way to explain Bitcoin in a 2-minute elevator pitch. It's like people want it, but it's just not possible. And I think that a lot of that has also prepared us, and like specifically myself, for dealing with like this onslaught of information overload and noise to signal ratio filtering. Because I mean, you guys know, like anybody that's watching right now, like if you've been in the Bitcoin space for just one cycle for 4 years, feels like you've been here for like 10. And like the news and updates that happens within the Bitcoin space, 3 months of Bitcoin is going to trump 30 years of legacy. Right. And a lot of that is because of like the funding mechanisms, the philosophy, the culture, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of it is also because legacy is entrenched in their own kind of echo chambers, and they can't innovate their way out of a wet paper bag, even if they wanted to. Right?
Yeah.
They just can't see outside of their own box to understand what the problem is. Versus Bitcoin is like not only its own box, it's not even a box, but it's outside of the box. It's like
I think I 100% agree with you, Mike, is in terms of, you know, what it feels like to be in the Bitcoin community, especially surrounded by tons of Bitcoiners that are voracious, you know, in terms of their appetite for learning. You know, Bitcoin veterans is just one group within Bitcoin, right? And it's an incredible group that's, you know, culminating and disseminating, you know, real-time information amongst memes and everything else. But, you know, to try to harness this thing and keep up with it, it literally feels like you're getting into a quantum time machine, right? Yeah. And when you look at what you learned from the time you were in, you know, government indoctrination, from the time you were 5 until the time you graduated, maybe even into, you know, higher education, right? What did you learn? What do you really, really remember? And what sticks out to you as like, man, not only did I not learn a ton, but what I did learn, a lot of it was really horseshit. And I mean, like straight up, not only like it was not just false, it was patently crafted to be a psyop for indoctrination. And, you know, you start to understand like, man, these good ideas that you start to get around, especially in the Bitcoin community. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, libertarians have some good ones. Sometimes, you know, Republicans have some good ones, but like not like these, man. Like not the depth and breadth of what is at your fingertips and awaiting for you in terms of just knowledge in this space that is unconventional, that is so far ahead of the curve. That razor's edge that you were talking about earlier, I think that's the interesting thing that's propelling this community to do such amazing things. It's just what you can do with more and more and more knowledge in terms of taking advantage of your own time, your own life, your own destiny, your own assets, your own privacy, you name it. Like, that is a incredible amount of power that you can start to bring back to you instead of farming it out or to somebody or some other business or whatever it is out there that would rather you be half-witted and on the government prescription.
Well, and on that note, I'm going to shamelessly plug my latest writing for my Substack. Was I wrote about how there's the saying, the meek shall inherit the earth. And then I have I made my own kind of adaptation to it. The meek shall inherit the earth. The weak will surrender it, and then the strong will direct it. Because what I wrote about specifically is this interesting paradox that the weakest members of our society, who have been they've been the ones behind the steering wheel for the last couple of decades. The weakest members of society demonize and vilify the acquisition, accumulation, and the holding of power. They think that anybody who wants power is just bad, and having power in general makes you a bad guy. And the indoctrination machine has been raising children through Hollywood and music and everything else. That one of my favorite examples is a kids movie. It's called Tangled, of where the protagonist, the male protagonist, the hero, he says that his dream was just to have a bunch of riches in an island somewhere. And they're like, that's not a dream. It's like, dude, so you guys don't understand what actual power is. Power is wealth, and wealth, they're interchangeable. And it's because wealth is the potential energy, right? Having access to potential energy. And the interesting thing is that the weakest members of our society, they don't want people doing that. But then if you're going to work together as a group, they try to suggest that equal outcomes, like a commune, like a bunch of hippie communists, are going to be able to accomplish something. No, you're not, because you don't get successful people and you don't get leadership through equal outcome, because there's no incentive there. Why would I try harder to improve the lives of myself so I can improve the lives of everybody else around me if you're going to get the same outcome as I am? Why? That's not
they're a leech.
Good math.
They're a leech living off of the person who is capable of making things better.
Yeah. Go ahead.
If you want to do it right, you got to do it, the Jewish communism way, where you actually take over and accumulate power for the top echelon and then leave everybody else in the dustbin of history. That hippie stuff doesn't work. It's not kumbaya. Obviously a little bit of tongue in cheek to bring some levity to this. Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. Go ahead.
There's an interesting paradox or proverbial wall that these weak members of society run themselves into, and they currently ran themselves into it with the Joe Biden administration. Was a perfect example, because they need leadership still, but they demonize all the people that are going to be capable of leading, because there are people that want to acquire power, that want to acquire resources, all this other stuff. They demonize those people, so those people don't develop, but they still need them. But they're in this weird denial of needing those types of people in order to achieve, increasing improvements in standing within their life. So they don't develop them. But then the people that do get the power, because it's going to happen anyway, because I'm sorry, libertarians, guys, but humans all naturally come together and form hierarchies, right? That's just what happens. And it can be not government, but then you give it a long enough timeline, it's going to develop into a form of government, and then it's going to decentralize. It's just the way of life, right? Mm-hmm. But the important thing is that even though those groups, the weak members of society, don't want leadership's going to find its way of developing anyway. And it culminates in the Joe Bidens and the Kamala Harrises, right? And then those individuals, they turn the weak turn it into it's interesting because we watched it happen. They turn it into like this religious cultural movement of where being a victim gives you some form of status.
Yeah.
And
what a terrible example, terrible incentive structure. Just, I'm a victim, so give me power.
Yeah.
Why?
Like, no, that's not how this works. Because then like those people that you get are the people that have no experience wielding power, have no experience wielding leadership, which is another form of power, is status within the society and community. They don't know how to wield it. So they do what the Black Lives Matters groups did, and they buy themselves a bunch of houses. They buy themselves, new cars. They spend all their money. They don't take care of their people. They don't actually follow through on the promises that they gave. And they're likely going to, DEI. Thank you, Belinda. That's exactly what I'm describing. Just without using it, gotta give a good positive psychological operation here.
You're incentivizing victimhood instead of leadership, and that's the worst. Yeah,
they always end up cannibalizing their own system and their own community.
Yeah, and you have to have adversity to sharpen you.
Yeah,
and so it's like if all you count on is your victimhood, then you've not had to actually. Yep, something happened to me, and I had to get the fuck over it because that's life, and like keep working and not just focus on this is holding me back. Like, yeah, everybody has shit. You get over it.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing too, is that these groups have also successfully, like, by demonizing people like the men that like acquiring power, they sell them as all being sociopathic or psychopathic. Like, no, there's a lot of us out there that want more power, that we just want more power so we can, fuck off into the woods and you guys not bother us. Right. And we've reached that kind of like fourth turning point to where you guys made so many problems and made the problems so big that those members of society are now like, okay, no, like, this is enough. Like, I didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want to get roped into this problem, but now I have to be the one that solves this problem, or your problem is going to become my problem. And I don't want to fucking deal with this. Right. That's where they messed up. And Hurricane Helene cleanup, I think, was perfect example of that kind of like that reality coming to fruition, with how many of like our people we ran into out there that were the ones responding because they knew that the government wasn't going to be able to do it. So they did it themselves. It's like, that's powerful shit, man. That makes me more optimistic too.
Hell yeah. Well, should we get into
who the fuck are you and what have you done with Mike?
Right. So much optimism. Oh man, I was going to bring this up just for fun. There was because you started talking about victimhood versus leadership and all that kind of stuff, and Pete Hegseth. Not that I'm a huge Hegseth fan or anything, but he's out there PTing with the guys over in, I think it was Germany, and 10th group guys, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you know Jordan or not, but the guy on the left has been part of some memes lately where you've got the DEI, I don't know what the hell this thing is, emaciated, weak, scrawny. You've got this guy who's a damn nation killer. Oh man. And you're like, yeah, this seems like a little bit of a different vibe these days over here.
That's what young boys want to see in the military that makes for effective recruiting. They want to see that because they're like, oh, I want to look like him. I want to be like
purple
him.
hair and rainbows.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they don't want that. No. Young boys don't watch Dragon Ball Z because they want to be some scrawny little piece of shit when they grow up. They watch Dragon Ball Z because they want to think that it's possible that they can just scream for 3 episodes and get super strong and be able to fight like a god. Right?
I never watched Dragon Ball Z.
Did you try that, Mike? Did you just scream for 3 episodes?
Oh, that's like anybody that's in the audience, like any of you guys, like back me up in the chat. Like, I don't know how many are there. There's probably 2 or 3. But like watching Dragon Ball Z, if you go back and actually watch the episodes, like during the big baddie fights, like they'll spend like 3 episodes screaming because it's like a power acquisition or power releasing kind of like meditative strategy. It's hilarious to go back and watch.
Speaking of screaming, we should probably get into some of the Doge DEI stuff. And
speaking of spurging,
yeah, but the difference is that Elizabeth Warren is not going Super Saiyan.
No, I'm going to agree with you because I don't know what that means. But yeah, here let's listen to her get out here and give it hell. Maybe not. What the hell?
Dude, the CIA is going after all of us now.
I guess so, man. They're like, dude, don't show that video. It makes her look terrible.
For every American.
She does that to herself.
Who doesn't want some weird Elon Musk suck up searching through your personal private data? This
That
is
the government owns.
fight. Your fight, my fight, our fight, and we will win this fight.
So she's
to say no to Elon Musk. We will fight it out in Congress. We will fight it out in the courts. We will fight it out across this country. And I promise you, we will win.
So she's literally leaning on the fact that none of her people have any understanding of what Edward Snowden was talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it was fine. Google does it. Apple does it. Everybody takes all of your data, but as soon as there's maybe, and it's maybe, right? Like maybe it's this other guy over here that's doing it. Like
the whole world has our data. How many times have like all
Elon
of our
has more of your
platforms
data because of Twitter than he does going to the government.
Yeah. Or Starlink.
And who really believes Elizabeth Warren? I mean, her
does,
voice is cracking. She sounds scared as hell right now. You know, trying to get up there, and you're like, you're gonna follow geriatric Karen into battle. Like, you think that's a game? Like, no, man. Like,
none of these people are going to battle anyway.
Right, exactly, and they have no idea what a real fight is. You know, none of them have been hit in the face, not once, for God's sakes. It's just the hypocrisy on blatant display right now. It's worse. You know, I forgot who it was the other day. And I think it's been made reference to a lot. But you know, this is just pro wrestling, man. This is, and it's not even good anymore. It's when pro wrestlers.
I mean,
sad.
Pro wrestling was never good.
Bite your tongue, Mike. when you were watching Dragon Ball Z, I was probably killing brain cells in a dorm room somewhere with other idiots down here in the South, and we would keep all the doors open, and we all knew it was fake as shit, but it was hysterical to listen to everybody.
Same retard, different side of the coin.
That's exactly right. But so anyway, I wanted to kind of open with that, and then apparently Trump came in after some of these meltdowns and brought Elon into the office, and Elon is standing here. If you don't know what Elon is doing with his hands there, I don't know, maybe Google it. It's just better than me explaining it to you.
His posture is hilarious. Just like, I haven't even watched the clip, just like how he's standing right there.
Well, and look what he's wearing into the Oval Office. He's got a t-shirt and a dark MAGA hat on, and
is that a pea coat or is that a sport coat? I can't tell.
I can't tell either.
Looks like a pea coat.
But looks interesting. Let's hit it.
Probably got to reload it just like the other one.
We've been talking so long that this is happening tonight. Great.
The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times that people that don't get what they voted for. But in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
Thoughts?
Dude.
I mean, they want to squeal about it for 8 years of democracy's dying. And then it's like, yep, the people overwhelmingly. And like, have you seen the CNN reporting their numbers of like, he's like, I think his best, he had like 46% approval rating at like the first 10 days of his term the first time. He's at like 70%.
Over 70% right now.
Like Republicans, like of the country. And you're like, yeah, this is very popular what he's doing. Like nobody's paying attention to all these people screaming. They're like, whatever, idiot.
Yeah,
There's no traction to it at all.
They're not taking the signal that the fact that everybody's stopping to listen to the people that are screaming is a signal that your opinion literally is not valued at all.
Yeah, they're deaf, man. They've checked out. There's such a disconnect in between these DEI, ESG, cult followers out there, or the people who mandate it from the people that blackmail, whatever. I don't care.
Column A, column B.
Yeah, and spineless, nutless hacks at that, right? It's like, dude, if it's that over, man, check out. Go enjoy the rest of your short lives and all that kind of stuff. Like, or maybe consider changing your tune. I don't know, pull a Zuckerberg. Maybe you're not that famous and you didn't, kill millions and millions of people or help kill millions and millions of people.
Yeah,
but
don't be sad that it's over. Just be happy that it happened.
Yeah. I think this is a step in the right direction. The reason why Elon was there in the first place is Trump has signed an executive order that mandates that federal agencies work with the Department of Government Efficiency. And
problem solved, problem staying solved.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an executive and you've got all these different agencies and bureaucracies and bullshit under your thumb, and you're like, you will do this, or I will find who you are, and you're gone, no matter what. Like you're gonna do this, and the people that resist, well, you're gonna get the.
They're already looking to fire people.
You're gonna get
give them a reason.
Yeah, so, even harder.
So I think there's even more with that specific executive order, because this is my first time hearing about it.
Yeah.
What that says to me is that that's also going to be the that I think that executive order is specifically going to be the Trojan horse that they use to go after the rogue deep state too.
It's got to be, man.
They're going to send their Doge artists. Okay, I don't even know if they're going to send. I think they already have them there, because from what I was seeing online was that they had these kind of potential operatives in place already. And that's how they selected them before taking everything live. This because it's not like they're sending in somebody like Ben Affleck and the accountant into these offices to investigate everything, right? It's just that I'm not gonna lie, you guys were both frozen there for a second, and I thought I lost connection again. So do me a favor and move a little bit.
You got it.
But I think that they're really gonna be starting to go after the General Groves's shadow government with this, because it's not just, I mean, the hilarity as well was the fact that the Department of Education got wiped out while everybody was watching the Super Bowl. If you guys missed that one.
Yeah, I saw reports on that, and I haven't seen it anywhere else. If that's actually true, that's huge news, and I just haven't seen it anywhere. And what's wild is, it was Colonel, McGregor that reported that.
Yeah, Douglas McGregor.
Yeah, for that guy who's an intel buff and sources, his sources and everything else out there, that's a really huge piece of news if it literally happened, and you don't see that anywhere right now.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is what's been happening the last couple of years and how things have played out. There's a high likelihood that it's real. It's even almost more likely that it is real because nobody's reporting on it. It's just being funneled through the groups, they're the guys like Douglas McGregor. The funny thing about all the outrage about the Department of Education, if it is truly gone, is the same people that have been squirming and supporting Elizabeth Warren are out there. I mean, it's mostly people on Facebook. Let's be honest. They're out there ranting about how the Department of Education is getting taken away, as if the Department of Education was the sole proprietor of education in general, or the fact that American education statistics have cratered since that department was put in place. It's not working. So why don't we get rid of it?
Not only that, but I mean, I think we learned this week that who's procuring all the food for the schools?
Who?
The DOD.
No way. Is it Halliburton?
Well, I mean, think about it.
It's Halliburton. That's insane.
Yeah, we've all been overseas, right? I mean, and we know who sets up, everything over there, right?
Halliburton and DPW.
That's right. And
oh my God.
You got these chow hall lines and chow hall tents, and I bet if you sent veterans into their local schools, they'd be like, man, I recognize this food. This is some of the cheapest possible food with the I don't know, probably the lowest density in terms of, nutrients that you could possibly put in front of somebody. And it doesn't matter because, we're government contracted, and this is what we do. We find the fucking lowest bidder out there, and then we give it to Joe, man. That's it.
Holy shit.
And then they start putting vaccines in it.
Right. I mean, that's not far from the truth, though.
Yeah, I saw that this week when I was going through all the Usaid stuff, and I was just like, geez, oh Pete, the DoD is literally buying food for the schools, or at least negotiating the contracts for them. And I that's like, boy, that doesn't seem like something.
You guys fathom how weird the future is going to be for the next couple of years?
Dude, the present's pretty weird already,
dude. Like, we're just talking about the policies, though. We're not talking about like the realities getting implemented and then the pushback, right? Because
that's going to be the interesting thing. Is everyone's talking about this, like the Department of Ed is gone and all, like that they've cut a single dollar from the budget. Nope, they're just bringing it to everybody's attention, hopefully to like build the momentum for when they have to actually have the debate for the next budget to keep the government funded. And hopefully this is the leverage to be like, look, all these people want all this crap cut. And like, why are you going to defend condoms for Gaza? Like, that's retarded. So you're going to have to start picking some things, like we're going to cut it. Until that happens, though, I'm like, it's all hot air. It's just politics and like arguing, but nothing's happened.
Well, like I want to continue on like my optimism trend, right?
All right, sorry.
Like because the funny thing is, I mean, it's just, you encounter the same problems with trying to get people to like be healthier and get into the gym that haven't been for their entire life. They panic about like all the discomfort and the change.
Yeah.
They don't look forward to what that change could bring them as far as benefits, right? Like, we're talking about like the potential for the entire education sector and industry to be like completely redone. Do you know how exciting that makes me? Because like, I'm going to be a father sometime soon. Right. And I want to be confident, and I want to be excited for like the experience that my kids are going to be experiencing. Cause like, you guys remember school. I know in my generation, school was not effective. And like there was no inspiration or motivation to learn anything like exciting. They weren't teaching anything exciting. The teachers didn't actually teach anything. They just read off a flipping PowerPoint or a textbook presentation. Like, what happens now that the Department of Education, if it is getting wiped out, what happens when the good teachers are allowed to like implement their ideas?
Or you bring new people in to teach, right? Like people who people who are industry experts, people who have, entrepreneur backgrounds, the people who, logistics or, some type of business strategy, business development. You start exposing kids to what business really is, right? From the ground up. And you go, hey, there's these different facets of business. There's, and they kind of apply to a large swath of businesses that are out there to begin with, right? Like if you're in a corporation, like, hey, this is foundation. Like this is basically what we should teach anybody about operating inside of a business, if that's what you want to do, or if you want to operate outside of it. Not to mention just all these advancements in terms of, bringing really interesting people back in, because, I think one of the worst things we ever did, and like, this is going to sound sexist, but was to have classes, right, where boys and girls are all, you have to learn what the girls are learning, and the girls have to learn what the boys are learning. Like the track, it doesn't make sense. I have boys and I have a little girl, and they're wildly different in terms of, how they learn, what they want to learn, all of those things. And it shouldn't be like, oh, we're just going to do this general education for everyone. Hell with that, man. Like, let's tap into this kid's passion. Let's find this kid's passion, and then figure out a course of education that's going to make him the biggest benefit to society that we possibly can. Yeah. That's what I'm excited about and I know that decentralizes. To your point earlier, Mike, I think it's one of those things where, we might actually be watching the future unfold a little bit here, because when empires die, right? Like you can go back to, the USSR coming apart. Is like someday there were some things that were up and running, and then the next day there wasn't, And it wasn't like they broadcast it because they didn't want to show that the empire was actually falling apart. It made the people who were in power look more powerless.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to kind of be a general theme going forward is, the more money they print, obviously, the worse off things get in terms of inflation and, cost of living and everything else. But at the same time, when we go down this path of empires falling, and that's really the only tool that they have left is the printing press, this is just what's going to happen. The federal government is going to evaporate, and it's not going to do so maybe sometimes publicly. I mean, think about what we've learned so far in terms of USAID. These things are gone, and we have no idea what's all gone already. We have some idea of some of the things that are gone, but we have no idea of all of the things that are gone. We haven't even got to the DOD in terms of what that can of worms is yet. And I don't know, kind of chomping at the bit for that one.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Jordan? No.
I'm good right now. I'm good.
Okay.
I mean, it's like I said, we started this like, keeping up with everything, is it difficult? And I'm just like, man, I've just kind of, not that I've checked out, but I'm not paying nearly as much attention now until like some big things happen, and like I'll let you guys or somebody will send me something that I need to know about it. Other than that, like I'm just trying to live my life the best that I can and keep up with things so that I'm aware.
That's the wisest position, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like I'm so much into a space of whether it's Bitcoin or a million other things. Like, what are the things that just makes humanity better that we should be focused on, and not like all this, like theoretically, if Trump does all these great things that we hope he does, and that's like one less thing to worry about. Yeah. That we should never have to worry or think about what the federal government can do to us anyway, so that we can be free to like just go do stuff.
Yeah.
And all the things that the opportunity costs that we're missing out on because we've been focused on that for so long. Yeah. I'm just very much in a headspace of like, it's not like that fight's over, but there's like, go show me that you're actually mean any of this before I give a fuck about what you have to say or what executive order you sign that can be overturned after they take you out.
Yeah. And that's the smartest, wisest position in my opinion. Cause like I love digging for this stuff and looking it up so I can speculate like Shane and I are, but to your credit and to your point, it's like, these are just rules and words put together by men. They can be torn down and ripped apart and changed by men. So like, there's nothing really set in stone about any of this.
Yeah.
Right. And that's also like the kind of like the reason why a lot of people stay away from it is like, none of this is a solution that stays into perpetuity. Like you have to fight for this stuff always and forever.
That is the side of freedom, I think, in terms of people who have checked in and checked out. We obviously just had the Super Bowl, and the amount of hype and bullshit around that is like, guys, like, do you realize this is just a sporting event? This is literally the bread and circuses of
it means nothing.
Dude, my give a fuck meter was at 0 for the Super Bowl. Like, it was great. Like,
who cares? I didn't watch a game all season.
Same. And I used to watch football, like NFL, a lot, and I was just like, not a single game. It's fine.
Yeah. I had a lot more fun playing football than watching that rig shit anyway. And, it's just, when we look at all of this, I agree. I go through these things sometimes too, Jordan. I think it was, when I had that back, a couple back surgeries a few years ago where it changed my entire world, man. Like, it was like, dude, all the stuff that you can pontificate about and do all these things out there. And I know there's obviously, this ebb and flow of that kind of things in our lives, and when we need to engage and when we need to disengage. But I definitely got into that ebb and flow where I was like, I need to disengage for a bit, man. Like, I really need to check out, and I need to check into like all this here now. That stuff is going to be there when I get back, like it is. And there's a piece about it, but I will tell you, I think, especially in this time, more and more good men doing this, having an account and understanding, that knowledge base, especially from the Bitcoin side of the house. Like, I think that's what's going to help propel. It's not that you have to be checked in all the time. It's that you need the numbers to have people checked in at the right times.
Yeah. Well, and it also takes like actual leadership that honestly is to that, in my opinion, is to that point of like, because it's kind of like a progression, right? Just like people like coming to Bitcoin and understanding. It's like a progression in developing the filter to be able to pick out the signal from the noise.
Yeah.
Right. Because like, I mean, it takes practice. Like, I still fall for stuff all the time. I think we all do. But like, you get to the point where you develop it as a skill to where you see what's happening, you see what's coming, and then you get to the point of where Jordan is, where you're like, okay, I know what is important to me as far as information to pay attention to. And I know that my bandwidth is limited and my time is limited, my energy is limited. So I'm going to keep it just to these things that I care about and let the other people that care about the other things stay informed on all that. If I need information, I can go to them, but I'm managing my time so that I don't, because like, I mean, as a family man, you don't want to dedicate too much time to just like looking up and accumulating information for the sake of accumulating information, right? Because you're going to miss out on your kid, you're going to miss out on your wife or your husband, you're going to miss out on the rest of your family, you're going to miss out on the other things that you enjoyed at one point. Like, it can, because like that's the other thing too, is like this whole addiction to optimization is that you don't have to make every minute mean something. Like, you want to play a video game or you want to like read a book or watch a movie just because you enjoy doing it, like you go do it. Like it doesn't matter.
Let me teach people who might be open to hearing this a little life hack. I realized that there were like older gentlemen in my life that I would want to share like certain bits of information with to like get their opinion. Cause I was like, all right, you've been around the block, you're smart, you're good on this like specific topic. And I was kind of like feeding different people information. And at some point it dawned on me that they've got a bunch of people that want to feed them information. And so I was like, wait a minute, why don't I just basically develop my own network? And that's kind of that's what you can tap into with Bitcoin veterans, like getting into the chat groups and stuff, is you can start finding like the guys you want to connect with and talk to and kind of build your network. And we all have access to this thing. And it's a very easy place to go like tap into like the intel source or have your own guys that, like, all right, if I'm in communication with these guys over here, like I will be kind of in the know on some of the most important things. So you kind of like, you build that network to feed you the information and you're filtering out the noise and just getting the signal, because this is, I think, living on a Bitcoin standard, at least mentally, is valuing your time and needing it to like just filter out all the noise, all the nonsense, and just get higher signal. And how do you continue to you said, like, how do you optimize that based on like how you want to? Some people look at it like, I've just got to work hard, nose to the grinder, work. And it's like, no, shut up, work more efficiently. You're wasting your time on a lot of things. So like that's one aspect, is like build a network that feeds you the appropriate information that you feel like you need to know. Also know how to like know these subjects enough to where you don't have to go research it every time some new article hit. Like, the background, like the ins and outs, and you're like, oh, this is what changed in that scenario. Okay, that's better or worse, whatever. You can analyze it a lot quicker. So in that sense, optimize yourself so that you can free up your time to go do family stuff or a hobby you enjoy or learn something.
Well, it's a lot like what I think it was Pilot One Reality, Shane, that comment that you put up on the screen there for a second. It's like what he was saying is that a lot of us were never taught the difference between what he's kind of like getting at in between the lines here is there's a difference between surviving and there's a difference between living, right? Because like most people in America and on the planet are stuck in survival mode, right? Like they're grinding away day by day to make ends meet so that they can provide for their wife or their kid or for themselves. Because you can't get to the point of actually living until you, like we were talking earlier, you accumulate enough power and resources to where you can buy yourself time and comfort so you can live in ways that you actually want to live. Some people like grinding 24/7 and they're the entrepreneurs and they're like, go do it. But people like me are lazy piles of shit. And I want to be able to like sit around and read a book or watch a movie and not feel the pressure to like be doing something else. Right.
Oh, the irony of that statement. If anybody knows Mike, Mike is the furthest thing from a lazy piece of shit. If you're lazy, man,
you have to be a lazy pile of shit like me though to set things up so you don't have
to make it
commit
easier.
as much. Yeah.
You have all about being lazy. Like,
it's funny.
I will work harder to be more lazy.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. That is the story of, I think, of a lot of people in this audience's life. Is like, dude, I want to do this so little that I will figure out a way to do this more efficiently, more economically, you name it. Like I'm going to put up whatever kind of system I need to do.
Mine is built and structured purely off anger. I am so mad that I have to put in so much effort for this that I'm going to put in 3 times more effort to figure the solution out while I'm angry about it and to figure out a solution so that I don't have to do this again. It's purely hatred. I am dark side all the way. I am a Sith. 100%.
We must all be Scottish. That's where the Sith come from. Did you guys want to move into the next the video? You got more preaching to do on this one.
No, dude. My podium is well worn right now.
All right, let's get into this next one. This next one, man. If you guys haven't kept up with a guy named Ryan Mata, he's probably one of the most underfollowed accounts out there.
Yeah.
He has done some really incredible work. Micah, you watched his first video. It was about the border. What was it called? Do you know off the top of your head?
It was the first one was about trafficked. It was, I can't remember the hashtag. Oh, what is it?
Yeah, trafficked is the one that we're gonna kind of lean into a little bit here for a few minutes. But this
the other one that you're talking about real quickly before you get into it is he has 2 documentaries. One is Trafficked, the other is Invasion, which is talking about the invasion across the southern border. They're related, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, this obviously by the headline, the U.S. government sent $797 million to Guatemala, turning it into a child kidnapping capital of the world. Over 190,000 Guatemalan children were trafficked into America with U.S. aid tax dollars, man. Like, this was one of those where it's a very hard watch. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's one of those that it's just it'll pick at your soul.
Oh, what is treason?
What is treason?
What is treason? And the first one is Traffic. The second one is Invasion.
Yeah. This one, I think kids are just one of those things, man, that you mess with our kids and that's it. That's the final straw for me.
Yeah.
And the fact that a small country, Guatemala is not huge. 190,000 kids have been trafficked into America with tax dollars, right? Like, this is one of those things, guys. It's
190,000 just from Guatemala.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing is you start to see this and you're like, well, this is just one country. We have, these guys have tentacles into every place. And then not just every place, but like when you start to look at turmoil and you think things are, different here in America. No, they're not. I mean, we had firsthand experience of this up in Western North Carolina. You start to have a situation where there's potentially missing people, and all of a sudden you've got people who will come in and snatch kids at the drop of a hat because there's just chaos. And
they have the cover of a natural disaster.
Yeah. And so, for Ryan to put all of this together and understand invasion and the fact that, people are being trafficked, like, this is how this whole thing works. We're just going to watch a little bit of the beginning of this, and I hope you'll go out and watch it on your own and give Ryan a follow. I've reached out to his camp. We're going to try to have him on the show. But this is one of those where I go, damn, man, like this is a huge piece of it. And it also kind of gives away a lot of who's involved in this. And so without further ado, let's let this thing roll for a second.
Well, would it shock you to learn that the United States government has been sending millions of dollars to Guatemala? Yes, upwards of $800 million to Guatemala via a laundry list of NGOs and organizations like USAID, and turn Guatemala into the child kidnapping capital of the world. Yes, our tax dollars, your tax dollars, funneled through USAID has led to over 190,000 Guatemalan children being kidnapped from Guatemala and then trafficked into the United States. And the horrors that unfold after that. What happens to these children? Are they killed? Are they disappeared? Sexually abused and thrown away like garbage? Our next guest wanted to break this story right here on Redacted. He has the receipts. He was just in Guatemala. He's just left Guatemala. He's in El Salvador now. He's safe and sound, thankfully. Please welcome independent journalist Ryan Mata to the show. Ryan, great to see you. I mean, sort of following what was unfolding while you were in Guatemala and getting these receipts, and it's unbelievable story. Can you just paint a 30,000-foot level view of this for our audience? What have you uncovered?
Yeah, Clayton. So you've had me on your show several times to talk about my documentaries, which expose the world's largest child trafficking network that's being ran by our government. So out of the last 4 years, there's been 452,121 migrant children have been trafficked from 180 different nations all around the world into America, where our government takes possession of these children and is now openly admitted to losing 350,000 of them. So after my last documentary release, I was contacted by the Attorney General of Guatemala, and she asked if I could come to Guatemala to sit down with her team and talk about the amount of children that are being kidnapped out of Guatemala. So I started digging into that, found out that 42 to 48% of those children have came from Guatemala alone. That means out of the last 4 years, 190,052 children have been kidnapped out of Guatemala, trafficked into America, and processed into this child trafficking network migratorily by our government. To put that into context, the population size of Guatemala is 15 million. Their child population is 7 million. So over 3% of their entire child population has been kidnapped and trafficked out of Guatemala into America. And they've done so through this network of NGOs that are all being funded by USAID.
I'm going to pause it there, man. What a staggering, and it's not numbers. I mean, we're talking about kids, people, our tax dollars are going towards, and man, I've said it before, and I'm going to keep saying it. Like, I'm done. They can come after me. I'm done paying taxes to this fucking government, man. I'm done. I'm not filing this year. And I know this is not, advice to anybody, but if you have the means to fight it, you have the means to say, I'm not doing this, and you can do some research. I think this is the way out. I think at some point, good people, good men have to stand up and say, fuck this. You're not getting another damn dime from me. This is absurd.
I personally want to know. I want to know where all the virtue signaling from the liberal left, like where are all these people at? Like in this specific conversation, like they claim to be protectors of innocence and minority groups and all this other stuff, but I have not heard a single conversation about this specific topic, which is the most important topic for any nation and any community, is the children. Like, it's the one group that you just don't touch, right? I don't care who you are across anywhere in the globe, you don't touch the kids, right? Like, they are our future, and that's the only thing that anybody should really be concerned about. Maybe not the only thing, but it's the primary thing. And for it to be happening at such a, like you said before playing the clip, like, that's one country. Yeah. And this, I think, where ultimately it's going to lead, and I don't know when it's going to happen, but you want to talk about a conspiracy theory? Like, I think that there's a legitimate one with the whole adrenochrome topic, because like you start looking into like the sheer numbers, 500,000 kids inside the US, 350,000 of them are unaccounted for and missing. Where do they go? And we don't experience just like roving bands of just wild kids walking around. They're getting put somewhere, and
they're being used. They're being harvested.
Yeah, they're being harvested. Like and it's not just they're being harvested. Like I think the pedophile problem in the U.S. and the political and the elite is big. I don't think it's that big. That's a lot of kids. Like they're going, like, I'm sorry guys, they're going somewhere. Like, and I think the reason why we don't know where it is because it's being buried and hidden.
Yeah.
But why is it being buried and hidden? Because there's a really dark topic. That's why. Like, and it like, we went from optimism to extremely dark really quickly. But like, like this is something that
subject.
This is something that gets me fired up. Like, there's not a whole lot that really truly gets me fired up, but you want to talk about like a legitimate warpath and I think justifiable bloodthirst. Like that's it. Where are the kids going? Why is all this money going into funneling these kids up to the US? Like, it's time to start bringing some buildings down, in my opinion, to get some answers.
Yeah. Jordan, before I kind of link in this next clip, you got any thoughts on this initially or no?
I mean, I have lots of things to say. Mike covered it very well. I think short of getting kicked off of everything, I don't have much to say.
So, being who I am and kind of trying to link larger things like this together. Came across a video by the great Ian Carroll, and I think this is one of those videos that kind of ties everything together. We won't watch it all, but definitely worth a look.
More than me, help me out with this one. I've been using usaspending.gov to look into the USAID spending over the last 4 years, because cracking open the USAID scandal changes the game. It is the story right now. And Americans are learning about all kinds of crazy government programs that we've been funding. But we're also learning about all kinds of organizations and NGOs and nonprofits that we didn't even know existed. Okay, disregard the filter that TikTok just put on me for the last 10 clips. And in the data here, I noticed that when you sort it by the size of payment, the largest payment, $6 billion, is to Chemonics International Inc., and then Pfizer. But then there's more Chemonics International Inc., and then there's more Chemonics International Inc., then there's more Chemonics International Inc., then there's
there's more
Chemonics International Inc. and more Chemonics International Inc. And I'm hoping that some of you know about Chemonics and can give us some leads and get the ball rolling of what the hell this is.
I'm not going to go into all of this, but he's citing over 1,500 awards to Chemonics, and who's involved in this one? He goes into list both the Clinton, Hillary, Bill, Chelsea, or whatever her face is, and then John Podesta. And these areas, in terms of specifically Haiti and Afghanistan during the term that she was Secretary of State. And you start going, this is really interesting, because Haiti's got an issue with disappearing kids. Afghanistan obviously is a war-torn nation, because of us. And you start to go, holy hell, man. I think there was literally over $17 billion that was awarded per this video to Chemonics. And you're sitting there going like, what do these guys do? It's a bunch of gobbledygook is what he, talks about in the video in terms of business, this and that, and all these kind of no, this is obviously some sort of shell corporation or NGO that's funneling, laundering, and moving money. And if the Clintons are involved, man, who knows in terms of the sick and twisted bullshit that's on the other end of this. And it's just, boy, this, what are we, 2 weeks in? Not even 2 weeks into USAID in terms of uncovering what's been going on with these guys. $17 billion on top of the $800 million to Guatemala alone to go in there and buy elections and put up, presidents and frontmen for NGOs that are, basically having sex with underage kids. Like, it is wild, discoveries going on right now.
Another thing that relates to that is I just recently watched, this is going to be a weird topic, so we don't have to stick on this very long, but I just watched a documentary that is something that every soon-to-be parent of a young boy should probably watch. It's called American Circumcision from 2017. Guess who's involved with that? The Clintons and Bill Gates. They were both behind funding the initiatives to really, really push circumcision in the United States on American young men. And I think we're either the only one or one of only 2 nations in the developed world that like push it. Yeah. Okay. And and balloons. And you're on mute, Jordan, by the way.
Israel's the other one.
Hey, surprise, surprise.
I'm so shocked.
And one of the main reasons why I tied this in is not just the Clintons and the funding in Israel, but there are theories discussed in that documentary from nurses and other doctors that perform this procedure that believe it qualifies as sexual abuse on the young boys, because a lot of times they like the toddlers, they get like erect when they go to do the procedure. So, this is wild. And there were theories that infants couldn't experience pain. So they were just like chopping these kids up regardless without anesthesia. So you have to think about decades of young American boys being raised where there's a possibility that they got sexually assaulted before they had the capability of like forming conscious thought, and what that does to the brain and the neurons of that individual. And then also think about experiencing intense pain and trauma at that same time and what that does to a population. It is insane. And then you think about Chemonics, like what they're doing potentially with like all these, like, I agree with you. I think that they're a shell corporation. They're probably, if they're not just profiting from the elite pedophile ring, I bet that I'll stop there.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing, I see this, and it's John Podesta that sets me off, right? John Podesta's, if you haven't seen, John Podesta's artwork, him and his brother are some sick bastards, and it's disturbing, it's grotesque, it's pedophilia, it's demonic, and like without him tied to this company and tied to Hillary Clinton, I sit there and go, it could be a number of things. But when John Podesta enters the fray, I certainly, my hackles go up, red flags, sirens and everything else are going, dude, this is fucking kids. And these guys, it seems like such a wild plot. Like in how many years ago would it have taken you guys to go like, get out of here? Like, there's no way on earth. The government of the United States is the largest sex trafficking organization around. And by the way, it's because of a bunch of satanic pedophiles that are owned and blackmailed by a certain country in the Middle East that is our greatest ally, quote unquote. How many years ago?
5. Not many.
I don't even think it's that long.
Yeah, I mean, like the biggest thing for me, I mean, I knew that the U.S. was doing some heinous stuff, but the biggest thing for me was like the whole like COVID situation in 2020. Like that opened my eyes to like a lot of the capabilities of people in government and people in the tech sector and everything else. But I came across some of this stuff so I would say most aggressively probably 3 years ago. I would have had a hard time believing it.
Jordan can't even speak right now because he's like, man, anything that comes out of my mouth is not going to be any good.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I hope that we are rooting this out. I hope that this is actually, really happening. Any win on this front's a good front, unless they've learned how to do it even better than they have in the past. and have now basically put this on the altar to sacrifice so that they can go on with those other evil plans. Like, I hope that's not it. I hope there is some semblance of good in the president and Elon and these people, and I don't listen, I'm not that 5D chess guy. I'm not going to do it. I hate that, who we've seen these guys with, being Epstein and the rest of the crew. They've all got pictures with them at parties or, some sort of event. You're just sitting there going like, man, are they defecting? Is this a run at something, greater than themselves? And is it now the time that this is happening? I can only hope that it is. Obviously, I'm going to stay, extremely critical. And I just, for the life of me, every time something like this comes out and we see something, it's like, all right, man, who's being arrested? Where are the major arrests? And, we keep going, oh yeah, when Kash Patel gets, his final nomination, that's when this starts happening. But obviously to date, we haven't seen a whole lot of that yet.
Yeah. And the, hold on, Jordan, you're going to say something. I want to hear from you if you're going to say something.
Well, I was going to kind of tangent off on the nomination. So if you have something pertinent to the current topic.
The only thing I was going to say is that, like, while we're doing that, Shane, like this is again the hard part of like the noise to signal filtering optimization is that we have to keep ourselves from becoming like the people that are the critical members of society that are bringing a lot of highlight to like what the evil deeds are for, the deep state, the intelligence community. The UFO topic is another great example, is that we don't want to be so critical, so overly critical that when evidence is pushed forward that is real, that we don't believe it just because of because the hard part, one of the hardest parts about like the whole intel side is that there are a lot of people that worked inside that didn't like what they saw, like Edward Snowden, that got out and they gave good information with good intentions. And they're like, hey, this is happening. But there's a lot of people that when those individuals come out and they do that, they're like, yeah, well, you were a part of the deep state. So how do I know that like this isn't like a psyop of a psyop of a psyop of a psyop? And I don't I don't know this is real. It's like, well, you don't have the information to go off of that. So you have to start somewhere. Yeah. Right. And that's the hard part. That's all I wanted to say, Jordan.
I was just going to say, like, why the hell you mentioned like the nomination of Kash Patel, and it was like, what is taking so long with these nominations? Like, it's been a week since they've sat down and had their little conversation. Like, is it still just a bunch of backdoor string pulling? And then there's supposedly Tulsi's like up for a vote tomorrow. Then you've got like apparently Trump's considering pardoning Snowden. I don't know how authentic that information really is or not, but like, even if he just floated it out there, is it like, look, you're going to nominate these people or I'm going to pardon Snowden? Your call.
And then pardon him anyway. Afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, if that's the chip on the table, and maybe you're right, Jordan, I hadn't put that together yet, but that is a hell of a bargaining chip, to sit there and be like, hey, listen, we're going to get Patel or we're going to have Snowden back, and you do what you will with that because we're going to unleash some stuff. Pretty interesting.
Because like from my understanding, to answer your question, Jordan, I think, Shane, you might know better. I think for the votes for these nominations, each voter, if they haven't made a decision, they get like 30 hours of deliberation each. So like, I mean, I wouldn't put it past these people to be like lining them up so they can just like squat on that for a while. It's like, all right, your 30 hours start now. My 30 hours are going to start after that. So-and-so down the line. And so they can just like take time and do precisely what they did when we were talking with Ashton Forbes with that Edward C. Lynn guy, of where they're just going to basically hold them in contempt, waiting to try and build a case against them, and they're going to fail. So,
well, I think that's why Tulsi is up tomorrow potentially, because the time will be up, but we'll see.
Well, and here's the other side of this too, is in the gaming on the Republican side right now is how do we do this and look like the heroes, right? Because if they don't have the votes, then they're not taking a vote. And so what it signals to me is they don't have the votes for Kash Patel or Tulsi or RFK at this point. So, the behind the scenes jockeying for these votes is going to get really interesting really quick. And that's the thing, is it has drug out, and it's to the point where I imagine the president has become fairly impatient with some of these things, right? Like, I mean, for a guy.
Oh no.
That wasn't me this time.
Did we lose the producer?
I think we did.
Are we back?
Oh, heard him.
He's trying to come back out of the matrix. Come on, fight. Go towards the light or away from the light. I don't know.
Ashton Forbes was to put us into some crosshairs last week.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where did I lose you guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
All right.
You were just going into like whether you think it's really like he's using that like to as like kind of like a weapon or a tool for negotiating, like, right?
Yeah, I think probably at this point Trump's patience are really worn out. But here's the other thing: is you got to consider, like, there's a lot of senators. Lindsey Graham, to be very frank and up, Lindsey Graham is one of the biggest snakes in the Senate, and for that guy, like, he doesn't want any of these guys in power, right? He doesn't want Tulsi. He definitely doesn't want Kash, and he's probably a hard sell for Lindsey Graham as well, right? Like, Lindsey Graham is a diehard quote unquote neocon Republican, and so for the Republicans to be having this much trouble in terms of getting the vote ready to go, the whip is probably worn out right now. And now, if that is the case, if they're floating this idea that Snowden might be that bargaining chip, is like, look, guys, you can either do this the easy way or you can do it the hard way. I imagine that's basically what's going on in the Senate, is they don't have the votes to get it through, so they haven't had the vote. Which
is interesting, because then you have to ask why. Like, who's not voting in favor of these people doing the right job?
Publish it. That's the thing, is they should have somebody out there in terms of the majority whip for the Senate going, these are our holdouts right now. This is who we have on stage, and the fact that they aren't doing this, they don't have it public, like in terms of this administration, I think that's a miscalculation. They should definitely get out there, and they should make this one of the biggest stories possible, is that you've got a Senate and there are guys in the Senate that need to be primaried the next go around.
Yeah.
And then
that's the biggest problem that the GOP is going to have coming up, is like, everyone's going to want to jump on the like Trump bandwagon, MAGA bandwagon, but it's going to be like, all right, what shows your record? Like, were you a rhino?
Yeah. I don't know, man.
It's gonna be like we said earlier, it's gonna be chaotic and weird and interesting for the next. It's gonna be probably a couple decades, guys.
Yeah. As Bitcoin continues to push into the six figures, I imagine there's going to be more and more influence by Bitcoiners into this process. And so at that point, I think it's going to be a very different story going forward in terms of who is going to get elected and who's not going to get elected. And I thought, what was it, Nicole Shanahan? She did a lot of work down here for both of the senators in Georgia. And now that they've kind of turn their back on RFK, she's like, get ready, bastards, because I'm going to use the billions of dollars that I have and all the influence, and you're done. And
which is big, because her husband worked at Google.
Yeah.
Huge. I can't remember his name, but he was like one of the big executives there. So she might have some dirt that people don't know, or like aren't even aware exists. That would be interesting.
Sure would be cool if she did.
Oh man, we got about 6 minutes left until 10:30 here on the East Coast. Is there anything you guys wanted to talk about? I've got a laundry list of other things up here, but I want to make sure that if there's anything we haven't hit tonight, that you guys go ahead and take a crack at it.
I'll plug the recent book I've been reading. Because I was talking to you specifically before, and even before, like the pre-show. guys, if you're looking for an interesting book out there, especially Bitcoiners, or like if you guys have read like the Operation Gladio book or the Real Anthony Fauci, like the dots that get connected, and you're interested in the Bitcoin topic, you're going to want to read the Rise of the Fourth Reich by Jim Mars with 2 R's.
Got it. You show it to everybody.
Yeah, it is. I've read the first chapter and I've got probably 30 sticky notes in that single chapter.
Super dense, huh?
Yeah. The reason I bring it up is that in the first chapter alone, Jim Mars is connecting a lot of dots that are providing explicit, just blunt ties between the CIA, or the guys that led the CIA later on, the Dulles brothers, to all of the major banks, JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, and Chase itself, having ties and influencing and investing in the rise of the Nazi Empire. And also how the Bank of England and the Bank of France also invested into the rise of the Nazi Empire. And it's like a very important to understand how history isn't necessarily what we were taught to believe, like we were talking about earlier with indoctrination, but also how these legitimate sociopaths that accumulate all this power, like we were talking about earlier, are using and abusing populations across the planet to pit them against each other in order for their own profit. And that which also feeds back into the other topic we were talking about with the USAID and what they've been doing. So it's a wild ride. It's not something I would recommend reading before bed because it's going to keep you awake.
Yeah. Right on, man. What about you, Jordan? What do you got?
You know what I do recommend reading or watching or listening to before bed is stuff about physics and how the planet and the solar systems work, and think about that as you drift off to sleep and you try to you travel interdimensionally in your dreams while you try to figure out how this damn spinning everything works. It's pretty wild. I've had some great sleep and vivid dreams just going to bed thinking about stuff like that.
What's the recommendation? I need to know what this is.
I've been watching some just YouTube videos on different aspects. Look into, what's it called? The Great Attraction, or the Great Attractor is basically this part of the universe that all of the galaxies anywhere near us are all gravitating towards. And it's we don't know what the hell that is, but while the rest of the universe is expanding, the Milky Way and Andromeda are all in a 100 million other galaxies or whatever are streaming towards this one. I assume a black hole. I don't know. When I get there, I'll let you know what it is.
Dope. I need something to read that I can actually go off and get ready for sleep for. So I'm excited for that one. What about you, Shane?
I was actually just trying to find the Pete Holmes stand up where he's talking about the nothing is expanding.
Oh yeah.
Infinitely, infinity is expanding. He's like, none of this makes any sense. Nothing makes any sense. I saw that guy here in just a few weeks ago with my wife at a local comedy club called I think it's Helium, and man, guy is just knockout good. If you haven't seen the Pete Holmes special, I'd definitely say go out there and do it. I guess right now in terms of my thoughts on what's going on and kind of parting thoughts for the night. Don't stress yourself out if you can't keep up. This news cycle is I think it's just impossible. But thank God there are literally millions and millions and millions of people out there. You can cultivate a network. You can cultivate whatever you need. Try not to do echo chambers and try to challenge your echo chambers as much as possible. I think that is a good thing. But I also like what you were talking about, Mike, earlier, is in terms of let's be skeptics, but let's also be fair. So when there are guys like Edward Snowden who put their life on the line to come out and give us some information that maybe we didn't have or had suspected, but really didn't have any evidence of, I think that's one of those things where, seeing, no shit, aliens are real this past couple of weeks, right? And everybody's like, man, we know. Right? And National Force is like, that's actually not the real secret. The real secret is free energy. And so to all those points is there are a lot of things happening, and I think we live in probably one of the most amazing times and timelines that there could possibly be. So enjoy and be grateful for everything that you do have, and the luxuries, the things that a lot of people on this earth don't have and have been separated from. The people, the time that you have right now, like this is where I think real concentration needs to be had. And I think Bitcoin is one of those things that helps you regain your time. I think it's one of those things that help regain your privacy. I hope it regains your life. And that's the thing, is money equals time. And when you have that back and you have time to do what you want to do with the people that you want to do it with, life is a little sweeter. And so that's why we advocate for Bitcoin around here. We want you to have more and more time with the people that you love the most in your community, doing things that are amazing for it and being those leaders out there. I think that's kind of where I'm going to end the show. Thanks to our sponsors out there. You guys are incredible. It's just an honor to have the guys over at Punch Plate and Solo Satoshi. Unbelievable. If you guys don't know those guys, we have links in the show notes. Go out there, check them out. And also our guys over at Fountain FM. Fountain FM is a great place. They are launching a new service over there where they're actually going to be hosting podcasts and distributing podcasts. And I got to tell you, I am extremely interested in moving us all over to those guys, supporting this decentralized way of life where you're getting paid for the content and you're interacting with your crowd, and there's no filters, no algorithms, anything like that. Thank God for the guys over at like Fountain FM and everybody else that's working in this space. Go out there and support them. If you don't know how to run a solo miner, or you don't know how to run a Start 9, those are things that I would highly, highly recommend in this day and age, to take back a lot of your own privacy, and then, add to the hash rate and secure the Bitcoin network on top of it. And if you don't know Bitcoin, come over to bitcoinveterans.org. And our guys will plug you in. We'll get you into the chats. Being a veteran is not a requirement. It's just one of those things where we're veterans that started this, and we give out a lot of information for a lot of things. So if you need help understanding how to buy Bitcoin, how to put Bitcoin on a cold storage device and manage Bitcoin, how to use Bitcoin, that's something that our guys hand out free knowledge of. They're all vetted and they're amazing. It's not a service. It's just a community that wants to help everybody else. So bitcoinveterans.org. And last, I think I'll mention Bitcoin Alaska coming up this July 3rd through the 6th. This is going to be, I think, a spectacular experience for the people that can make it up there. 141 days. Is that it until then? You can get your tickets on bitcoinalaska.org. This is in Anchorage, so if you're going to get there, maybe go and scout
Juneau.
out.
It's in Juneau.
Did you know? Oh, man, I'm sorry. I don't even know what I'm talking about. There's a map right there.
I thought you were saying, did you know? I was like, oh, well,
did you know?
Nice little pun.
Did you know?
Do you know?
I know now, thanks to an Alaska native. But go out there and find it. They've got lodging on here. I would start with lodging. Get your lodging first, then buy your plane tickets, and then get your ticket to be there. But it's July 3rd through the 6th. I think it's going to be an awesome time. Wade has been working his butt off on and bringing Bitcoin to not just Juneau, but the rest of Alaska. And I think this is going to be one hell of a conference. So we do this every Tuesday night. Tell your friends, bring a friend, bring a bourbon, a beer, buddy, all that fun stuff. The 3 Bs. Maybe blunts. I don't know if that's we've got a crowd.
We're not discriminatory here.
Yeah, whatever you want to bring. Have a good time. Thanks for everybody out there. Thanks for all the Bitcoin veterans in the background that make everything happen. You guys are incredible network of people that we've got here. Jordan, Mike, really appreciate you guys too. Always fun to hang out with you guys for a good hour plus and talk about what's going on in this world. Find your own self a Jordan and a Mike in your life, and I guarantee you things get a lot more interesting. Until next week, everybody, we love you. Peace.